Hello students, so I'm back with my second video of memories of childhood. So we had already started in the previous video, the first part, the first story, cutting off my long hair. So we are now resuming from there only. So here we had already read that when she entered in the dining room, the first bell rang and she saw that everyone pulled out the chair from under the table. She also did it and then she sat. But then afterwards only she noticed that was no one seated on the seat, on the chair. And that's why she felt very embarrassed. Okay. And she was now thinking that maybe she's out of place. So now we are starting from here only. So she said, when I turned my head, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 12th last line, we are now starting. But when I turned my head, I saw that I was the only one seated, and all the rest at our table remained standing. Just as I began to rise, looking shyly around to see how chairs were to be used, a second bell was sounded. Now she thought that okay, now she should also not sit, and she was about to stand to leave the chair. Then only there was second bell, and with the second bell all were seated at last. And I had to crawl back into my chair again. And that's why she also crawled back. And why this crawl back word is used? Because she felt very embarrassed. Okay, and that's why this crawl back is used. Because she was about to stand, about to leave the chair, and then second bell rang and everybody, they were seated. Okay, and then she naturally crawled back. So I heard a man's voice. Now when everybody was seated, then only she said, I heard a man's voice at one end of the hall and I looked around to see him. So there was now certain instructions and she wanted to see who was giving these instructions. But all the others hung their heads over their plates. But then she noticed that no one was trying to look at the person who was giving instructions. Rather, the heads were bent. But she was the only one who was trying to look here and there to search for that person who was giving instructions. So as I glanced at the long chain of tables, I caught the eyes of a pale-faced woman upon me. When she was trying to look here and there for that man who was giving instructions, then only she noticed that there was a lady who was continuously looking at her. I caught the eyes of a pale-faced woman upon me. Immediately, I dropped my eyes, wondering why I was so keenly watched by the strange woman. The man ceased his muttering, and by that time only, that person who was giving instructions, he stopped. Okay, muttering means those instructions which she was not able to understand. That's why muttering word is there. And then a third bell was tapped, and then only there was a third bell. Everyone picked up his knife and fork and began eating. I began crying instead, for by this time I was afraid to venture anything more. So she said, everybody started eating after the third bell, but I was not in a mood to eat. Rather, I felt like crying because it was very difficult for me to live over here where everything was done. Okay, by this, everything was guided by the bell only. But this eating by formula, underline this. You may get this word, this phrase as question also. What is eating by formula? Okay, important. But this eating by formula was not the hardest trial in that first day. So eating by formula means you have to give the 3 bells. Okay, what everybody is supposed to do according to those bells, and you can start even from the first bell. Okay, when everybody was supposed to come out of their rooms to walk towards the dining area. So by this formula, eating by formula was not the hardest trial in the first day. Why? Because late in the morning, my friend Judwin gave me a terrible warning. Judwin knew a few words of English and she had overheard the pale-faced women talk about cutting a long heavy hair. So Judwin only told that now, because she had overheard that today they also will be called and their hair also will be cut. Our mothers had taught us that only unskilled warriors who were captured had their hair shingled by the enemy. Now she started thinking that why our hair would be cut. Why? Because she had heard from her mother that there is always a reason behind cutting of the hair. So one reason is that if some warriors, those who go in the battlefield, and if they are unskilled, they do not know how to use swords and guns and all, okay, then only as a punishment their hair are cut. Okay, because naturally they will be captured if they are not knowing how to use the weapons. Naturally, they will be captured by the enemy, and the enemy would be giving punishment by cutting their hair. Or there could be other reasons, that is, among our people, short hair was worn by mourners, and among the Native Americans, this was also thing that if there is a death in the family, then the family members, they will also have shingled hair, okay, as a message that there is a death in the family. So this way. And there is third reason also, shingled hair by cowards. And sometime if you are sent to the battlefield and you run away from the battlefield, proving yourself to be coward, then also as a punishment the hair would be cut, okay, the hair would be shingled. So these were few of the reasons which she had heard or read, okay, but she was wondering that why our hair are going to be cut. So that's why we discussed our fate some moments, and when Judwin said we have to submit because they are strong, I rebelled. But Judwin said, no, you cannot escape from this. Why? Because they are strong people, and this is the rule that new girls, whosoever comes over here, their hair should be shingled. So naturally, we will also be caught. But she said, I rebelled. I said, no, I am not going to, allow them to touch my hair. No, I will not submit. I will struggle first, I answered. And then she said, I'm not going to, surrender before them. Why? Because I won't allow them to touch my hair, and I won't allow them because naturally I'm ready to struggle. So this is what she said. I had decided at that time only. I watched my chance, and when no one noticed, I disappeared. Means after that, all these newcomers, they were called, and maybe they all were called in a hall, and they all were seated over there, and one by one maybe they were called. And when she noticed that no one was looking at her, no one was noticing her, so at that time she disappeared. But where she went, I crept up the stairs as quietly as I could in my squeaking shoes. My moccasins had been exchanged for shoes. Now at this time she was wearing shoes, and these shoes were not noiseless. Okay, they were not very light like moccasins. So they were giving some sound, but even then she tried that this sound should not be heard by others, and she disappeared from there. Along the hall, I passed without knowing whither I was going. Actually, she was new one over here. She didn't know many rooms, many routes, many galleries, everything. Okay, but still, she just wanted to avoid this place, or she just wanted to be away from this place, to be disappeared. So that's why she said, I went away from there, and the hall I passed without knowing where I was going. Turning aside to an open door, I found a large room with three white beds in it. Then suddenly she saw that there was a room, large room, and there was nobody. There were three beds in that room. The windows were covered with dark green curtains. So three beds and then green curtains. So we can get the idea that maybe this was kind of medical room. Okay, but no one was there. So she went inside that room. The windows were covered with dark green curtains, which made the room very dim. Thankful that no one was there, I directed my steps towards the corner farthest from the door. On my hands and knees, I crawled under the bed and huddled myself in the dark corner. So she said, I just crept under one of the beds. Okay, that was the corner bed, and I thought that maybe I'm safe over here. No one is going to, search for me now from here. From my hiding place, I peered out, shuddering with fear whenever I heard footsteps nearby. So naturally, people were going and coming. Okay, that area was being used by other people also. She said, with every footstep, I was afraid that maybe they would be searching for me. But still, she was able to hide herself. Though in the hall, loud voices were calling my name, and I knew that even Judwin was searching for me. And now, maybe when her turn came for this cutting of the hair, everybody started calling her name, and even her friend Judwin was also searching for her, because this plan she did not even, we can say, exchange with Judwin also. I did not open my mouth to answer. Then the steps were quickened and the voices became excited. Then voices became excited means more and more people were calling her name, and everybody now started searching for her. The sounds came nearer and nearer. Women and girls entered the room. Now she could sense it that people are searching here and there in all the rooms, in all the corridors. Now they started searching for her. And then suddenly she realized that yes, some women and girls, they had entered in that room also. I held my breath and watched them open, close it, doors and peep behind large trunks. Now means everybody was searching at every possible place for her. So suddenly, what happened? Someone threw up the curtains and the room was filled with sudden light. Now, someone threw up the curtains and now the light was there, enough light to see if somebody is hiding over there. What caused them to stoop and look under the bed, I do not know. I remember being dragged out, though I resisted by kicking and scratching wildly. Then suddenly she said that suddenly, I do not know what happened, why, but suddenly someone started looking under the beds and that way I was caught. But she said, I struggled a lot. It's not that I just gave in, no, I struggled. But even then, everybody means was trying to drag me. I was kicking, I was scratching, I was shrieking, but no way. In spite of myself, I was carried downstairs and tied fast in a chair because she was again maybe trying to run away from there. I cried aloud, shaking my head all the while until I felt the cold blades of the scissors against my neck and heard them gnaw off one of my thick braids. Then I lost my spirit. And ultimately, she said, I sensed that with that scissors, my braids were cut, my hair were cut, and at that time, she said, I lost my spirit. Naturally, my enthusiasm to study in this school was all lost. Since the day I was taken from my mother, I had suffered extreme indignities. Indignities means insults. She said it's not for the first time. Many times, because of being Native American, I had suffered these indignities, insults. People had stared at me. I had been tossed about in the air like a wooden puppet. Means she many times she had felt that she was taken as a puppet only because they were Native Americans and everybody was there to, oppress them. And this is what now once again she felt. And now my long hair was shingled like a coward's. In my anguish, I mourned for my mother. And she was thinking that as if she was a coward, that's why her hair were cut because this had happened over there. And she started mourning, crying for mother. But no one came to comfort me. She was maybe after that she was crying a lot, but no one was there to comfort her. Not a soul reasoned quietly with me, as my own mother used to do. And there was no one who could give a reason that why this act was being done, why the hair was, because it was just a rule only, maybe rule for these Native Americans, okay, that you cannot look beautiful in the long hair, and this is what she felt very bad. For now I was only one of the many little animals driven by a herder, and now she was feeling that she was not taken as a human being over here. Native Americans were not taken as a human beings, rather they were taken as animals, and these people, they were trying to control them. So this is the first story, Memories of Childhood. We have finished over here, and you please go through it and then prepare for your boards. Thank you.